Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Please join me in the call to worship. We will sing of the Lord's great love forever.
Oh, we're good. Yeah, we're back.
Oh God in heaven, through thy children, mercy and blessings of never ceasing.
Where's your pile of Oh, now the live's back.
Tried, dead, and buried. On the third day he arose from the dead. He ascended into heaven, sitteth at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. Thence he shall come to judge the quick and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, and the resurrection.
Let's join together in prayer. God of grace, we are grateful for this day. As we live and move and breathe, we are grateful for the gifts that you give us, for the ways that you move in our lives, unexpected and also the things that we take for granted. People who are sick with coronavirus, for all the doctors and nurses who are helping to heal those people. We pray that your Spirit would be over each of them, guide their actions, help them to breathe more deeply and more easily. God, we pray that your Spirit would move in all the people of this world who are gathered in worship this morning, people who have gathered in worship this week. That you would help them to breathe easier and deeper. We pray for all the people who are struggling with equality, for people of color who can't breathe. We pray that you would move in their lives, in their lungs, and that you would move in the lives and the lungs of the elected officials. That you would help us to respond to the words that your Spirit is stirring up amongst people who are asking for equality. We pray that the Spirit of truth would abide in all of those people, in conversations around tables of power. Help your justice and mercy reign. We pray for all the teachers who are breathing easier during summer break. We pray that you would give parents and teachers rest and respite through the summer. That even in the midst of health problems and social problems, that you would help us to breathe deeper and easier. God, we pray that your Spirit would infuse all the places in which the gospel is proclaimed. That people would hear what they need to hear. People would speak what they need to speak. That you would move through all the words of Christ proclaimed. God, we gather every week might proclaim the good news of Christ to all. God, we join together in praying in the words your Son has taught us, saying, Our Father,
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
this time we continue to worship God and bring together God's tithes and our offerings.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above, ye heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Let's pray. Eternal God, we ask that you bless these gifts that were yours, given to us in the first place. We give them back to you, asking that you would use them to spread your kingdom, to be more perfect.
Queen of the nations, Lord, we pray with one accord for a just and equal sharing of the things that earth affords, to a life of love in action. Help us despair your word release, that redeems
from the lectionary today is Matthew chapter 10, verses 40 through 42. Listen now for God's word. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet in the name of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And whoever welcomes a righteous person in the name of a righteous person will receive the reward of the righteous. And whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones in the name of a disciple, truly I tell you, none of these will lose their reward. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Just the time I feel that I've been caught in a mire of self.
gospel reading today is only 3 verses. But it's a dense 3 verses. It says a lot about who we are as people, who God is, what our role is, and what happens during hospitality. Honestly, I probably could have picked one of these verses and preached a sermon on it, but I picked all 3, and we'll see how the Spirit moves this morning. So the title of this sermon is It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that phrase. It comes from the original Superman show. The scene goes something like this. People in peril on the streets of a city. A crowd gathers around. Someone in the crowd sees a streak across the sky and says, "It's a bird." Someone else disagrees. "It's a plane." The third person notices the shape of a human form. "It's Superman." And at this point, you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with the Gospel of Matthew? In this text, there are 2 lists of 3 things in a row. The first list is from verse 40. A person sent out by Christ, and God. The second list is from verses 41 and 42. Prophets, righteous ones, and little children. There's a classic literary form in wisdom literature, in prophecy, and actually all throughout Scripture, where a speaker or a writer will list 3 things. And the first 2 are meant to be a framework. And the last one is meant to break the pattern with a twist. Something unexpected that meets the qualifications of the first 2 items, but it adds a dynamic that nobody saw coming. So, it's like the old Superman show triad. Someone sees something flying, suggests the first thing that comes to mind. "It's a bird." Someone else notices the speed and the size and says, "No, it's a plane." The last person notices something that breaks the pattern, that defies expectation and changes the way we think. A man who can fly unassisted with the speed of a plane. It's Superman. The first 2 give us the framework, and the third breaks the pattern. This is the same way the Matthew 10 scripture works. Jesus first says, "Whoever welcomes you welcomes me." And this phrase holds the first 2 parties in the list, a disciple and Jesus. This is not surprising. In the ancient world, it's customary to welcome a messenger or a guest as if they were themselves the person who sent them. It's the same way today we think about ambassadors and diplomats. Our political leaders' actions toward the ambassador of France or toward a diplomat from China are meant to be actions toward that country itself. But it's the third item on the list that's meant to make us do a double take. The one who sent me. Jesus says God sent him to the disciples, and it is a surprisingly radical idea to suggest that a person offering hospitality to a disciple is unequivocally offering hospitality to God. So the first 2 give us a framework. It's a human with a message, and the third tells us the truth. It's a human with a divine message straight from God. And this is the same with the second list of 3 in this scripture from verses 41 and 42. The prophets, the righteous ones, and the little children. The first 2 are the framework. And any disciple sitting listening to Jesus would be excited by these words. A prophet and a prophet's reward? You can almost hear the disciples thinking, "Great, we're prophets. We know all about the prophets. They're the heroes of Scripture." And Jesus goes on and says, "The righteous one and the righteous reward." Oh, awesome! We're the righteous ones and a heavenly reward. And the third in the list is meant to sort of scratch the record. A cup of water to little children? Little ones? Little children? I was hoping the last thing in the list would be priests or wise ones or apostles, but little children? Jesus is giving us a clue to
But what he wants us to notice about the first two, the prophets and the righteous ones, is it power? Is it prestige? No, it's humility, and it's pain and suffering. Children in the ancient world have almost no rights at all. They were not honored or given rewards. The prophet and the prophet's reward means rejection, pain, suffering. The righteous and the righteous reward means vitriol, hatred, and violence. Jesus talks in Matthew especially about prophets and righteous ones being persecuted and rejected. This is not a list meant to offer comfort, but conviction. It's not a warm and fuzzy list. Which brings us to how these two lists might relate to one another. The first list is meant to be empowering. Go out and spread the gospel. You are sent by God. Don't be afraid. Don't be concerned. God's got you back. The second list is meant to bring us back to reality. In case you think being sent by God means your way will be easy, look at the prophets. How were they welcomed? With rejection and trials, jailed and beaten. Look at the righteous ones. How were they treated? With violence, vitriol, and hatred. They were despised. The second list is meant to let you know the rightful place of one spreading the gospel. You will have to share in pain. You will have to meet rejection. It won't be all roses. So, Jesus' words to his disciples in his message in these two lists, what does it mean for us today? In a divided country, in a time where physical hospitality is completely stunted by fears of coronavirus, in a time where no one seems to want to hear anything that disagrees with them at all. Over and over in Scripture, Jesus sets up the framework for us to be image bearers of the divine. It begins right in Genesis chapter 1, and it's repeated throughout the story of the Bible. Human beings are simultaneously sinful and limited, while also being emissaries for the divine and the primary mode through which the gospel is spread to the world. The truth of this scripture, whether we are the ones who are sent out or we're the ones who are admonished to be hospitable, is that human interaction equals divine interaction. If you want to know what it's like to welcome God into your home, then welcome a human. If you want to know what it's like to give God a glass of water, then give one to a little child. If you want to know what it's like to open your heart to the divine, try opening your heart to another person. Jesus is saying that the experience of practicing hospitality is the experience of hosting the divine. And the reward for opening your heart and mind to another person is going to be painful. The one who welcomes the prophet gets the prophet's reward, rejection and pain. The one who welcomes the righteous one will get the righteous reward. Maybe hatred, maybe violence. People won't love you for it. The one who gives a drink to a little one will receive their reward. The reward is that you experience the divine, but the result is that you'll most likely be rejected by those who disagree with your openness. So imagine talking to someone who completely disagrees with you or is completely different from you. Imagine welcoming them into your heart and mind. Imagine what that might do for you, or what it might do for them. This is the experience of hosting the divine. The paradox of Scripture is this: you are simultaneously an image bearer for the divine, and you will find God in that which is so different from you. God is at once the most ancient being and also the smallest child in the world. God is at once the ever-present one and present in the smallest interaction. between two people. God is at once the most highly exalted and also found in the broken body of a refugee killed on a cross. You will host the divine when you offer hospitality to the one who is radically different from you. For me, as a white heterosexual male, God might be present to me in black people's experience, in gay people's experience, in women's experience. Hospitality is to experience a perspective that is opposite of my own, to see where Christ might dwell. The reward is not the respect of those around you, not the honor and support of the community. In fact, the response might be the opposite. The reward is the experience of hosting the divine, the experience of interaction with another image bearer of Christ. Christ got all kinds of warnings in Matthew chapter 10 about the pitfalls of this work. I have not come to bring peace. I will set father against son, brother against sister. I send you out as sheep among wolves. The reward, of course, is the image of the kingdom of heaven from the book of Isaiah, when sheep can go fearfully and knowingly into the house of a wolf, and the gospel can change and challenge both of them together. When the sheep and the wolf can lie down together and all of life is restored. This is the unexpected result of the gospel, that which we are charged to bear the image of. And I'm sure at this point you're wondering, how did we start at Superman and end up here? The original Superman show was about identity and heroism, about an unexpected hero, a geeky, glasses-wearing reporter, Clark Kent, who in actuality is a fantastic hero. It's meant to let us ask, who among us could be hiding a larger identity? Might my gifts lie in something unexpected in myself? And throughout the show, if you've watched it, you know Clark, he's an outsider. He's an outcast from another planet, and he's constantly worried about hiding his true self for fear that he will be rejected and hated for it. When, of course, his true self is where his greatest power lies. And this is similar to the gospel message for today. God is hiding in the unexpected exchange between you and another person. The one whom you encounter is truly the image bearer of Christ, and Christ is the image bearer of God. And the reward of hospitality for this interaction, although it may be hard, is something better than witnessing Superman. It is the opportunity to encounter the divine. To be human is to experience pain and brokenness. To offer hospitality is to open your pain and brokenness to another person. That's the experience of dining with God. So the next time you hear it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman, you can think of this gospel message. It's a child. It's a stranger. No, it's Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Let's join together in singing hymn 592, Win the Church of Jesus.
Church of Jesus.
into this week, may God bless you and keep you. Christ make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you, and may the Spirit of God turn her face toward you and give you peace. Amen.
Amen.